Welcome to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Kentucky attorney Jeff Roberts has over 25 years of experience. He'll provide answers to your questions related to personal injury and automobile accidents, workers' compensation claims, and Social Security disability benefits. Let's join Jeff for this episode. And friends, welcome back. We are with attorney Jeff Roberts down here in Calloway County, and we're going to talk about Social Security disability and how that might be impacted if suddenly you should have some additional income, such as a proceed from a lawsuit of some sort. Maybe you have a lottery winning of some sort, maybe some other things that you hadn't really planned on that might actually, unfortunately, negatively impact some of your benefits. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Jim?
Well, I'm doing fine, man. This is something that took me by surprise. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, actually, when it came up on TV right now. You see a lot of these Camp Lejeune lawsuit type commercials, and there are a number of them. That's just happened to be the one I saw. And it got me to thinking, and I reached out to you and I said, well, what happens if you're on a certain type of program that disability related, that suddenly you have income? Would that mess up your disability qualifications? And you said, you know what, we ought to probably explore that. So today, let's kind of jump into that.
Sure. And first, we need to define or talk about the different types of Social Security or different types of disability programs administered by Social Security, I should say. You've got Social Security disability benefits, sometimes referred to as Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, and then you have Supplemental Security Income, or SSI. And the disability determination is the same for both. I've said that in the past on some of these podcasts. If you're disabled for one program, you're disabled for the other program. They're defined exactly the same. But the non-disability aspects of the claim are what's different. For Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI, you receive based on what you've paid into the system. You've had to have paid in a certain amount over the right periods of time to meet what's called the insured status requirements to be able to receive SSDI benefits. SSI, on the other hand, is paid out based on financial need. So they're going to, on SSI, they're going to look at what the financial need is of your household, and they're not going to look at just what your income and resources are, but they're going to look at the income and resources of the household from that perspective. So as a general rule for SSI purposes, any income benefits or any kind of resource that comes in, income that comes into you from any source, or potentially even for a family member, if you live together in the same household, can have an effect on SSI. So just a blanket statement that you can assume if you get a settlement, if you win some money in the lottery or any other avenue, get an inheritance, anything like that, it will, or in all likelihood, is going to have an effect on your SSI. Now, there are ways to protect that we can talk about at some point in time, but assume it's going to affect it unless you've done ways to protect that with trust and things of that nature. So pretty much the rest of this podcast, unless we get to those avenues later on, but the rest of this podcast, I'll focus on how the receipt of these benefits will affect SSDI, Social Security Disability benefits, versus SSI.
And a couple of clarifications. This has Social Security Administration manages a number of different programs. This has nothing to do with our normal retirement benefits. That's a whole different area of Social Security.
Correct.
And then the other clarification I always like to make is that you have two offices. We're here in Calloway County today. We're right downtown Murray. But you've also got a Hopkinsville office up in Christian County.
Correct. Yes, I have a Hopkinsville office in Christian County. I've had that office coming up on a year now. Actually, in a couple of months, it'll be a year that I've had that office up there. And I've always had several clients up in that area. And so I opened that office up to serve that community better, and it seems to be working out well. And I've got some very nice clients up in that area, and I enjoy meeting them at that office.
And this region of the state has always kind of been your hometown. I mean, you grew up in Mayfield, you went to Murray, and then you've practiced for about 32 years right here in Calloway County, but the nature of your practice, Social Security cases, workers' compensation, personal injury, that's kind of taken you all over the state. But this is it's nice to have those two offices now. It's a little bit more convenient for your clients who are over in that area of Western Kentucky.
Yes, it's convenient for them from that perspective, and it's yes. My practice has always been more of a regional, if not state, practice. I've represented throughout my 32 years of practicing law individuals all over what I consider to be Western Kentucky, but I've also had lots of clients in the Louisville, Lexington, Northern Kentucky area. I have several clients in the Bowling Green area now as well, and so with the nature of what I do, I can represent clients in a wide variety of cases all over wherever they're located at. If they're in Kentucky, I can represent them. And frankly, if they're out of Kentucky and it's a Social Security disability claim, I can represent them in those cases in all 50 states. So.
Because that's a federal program, which allows you to move around the country.
Right. I'm licensed to practice in Kentucky, but the Social Security Administration has licensed me to practice in front of the Social Security Administration in all 50 states.
Fantastic. Well, so let's jump back into the topic. Generally, if you've got SSDI, you've been injured badly enough to where you have some level of disability at this point. And so you're receiving some benefits for that, and then suddenly some income comes in, and this is proceed. Maybe you were in a car wreck. That happens quite frequently. We're going to talk just a moment about how it could impact VA benefits as well. But so the money comes in. What happens and why does it happen?
Well, with Social Security disability, they're going to be looking at, first off, you've got to be, to receive Social Security disability, you got to be 100% disabled as the Social Security Administration defines that. It doesn't mean you can't have some limited amount of earnings, but basically you're not able to work as a general rule. And so, but Social Security is going to kind of look at it and classify things as unearned income versus earned income. So with Social Security disability, you mentioned the Camp Lejeune. To start with, if you were someone that was affected by that tragedy in Camp Lejeune and the water supply being contaminated there, and you receive funds as a result of that, the program that's been set up to protect those individuals, or well, not to protect them, but to compensate those individuals who had that exposure, that comes in, that's going to be considered unearned income by Social Security. It's not going to affect Social Security disability benefits from that standpoint. And that would be the same with a car wreck settlement as well. Again, classified as unearned income, not going to have a bearing on what you receive in Social Security disability. And I've had clients come in to see me in the past from a car wreck, and they've been on Social Security or they're on SSI, either one. And that's one of the concerns that we have is that I have to explain is, will this or will this not affect? If it's Social Security disability, it's not going to affect your Social Security disability. If Medicare paid anything, we got to deal with Medicare at the end, but it's not going to affect how much you have coming in from Social Security disability. If it's SSI, then I have to have the conversation that this can affect it. There's ways that we can protect it, and we need to look at doing that from that standpoint. So it's something that whenever you have that type of a case, whether it's the Camp Lejeune or class action or a car wreck type case, you need to let your attorney know. Hopefully your attorney is asking you those questions from that standpoint, but if they don't, you need to let the attorney know.
But realistically, your case could already been settled, you're already done, and then years later, suddenly you have an incident like a car wreck or a different type of settlement that comes in, and that's, again, another reason you need to pick up the phone and call the attorney to say, hey, look, how is this going to impact me? Because I guess a lot of people don't really think of that. They say, hey, this is just coming in out of nowhere, and obviously I'm dealing with this, but they don't see the relationship that may be there, and that's more relative. It sounds like to the SSI because that program is means tested, whereas the regular SSDI, the disability, is not necessarily impacted.
Correct. Yeah, the SSDI, the income coming into to the household is not affected. You know, what they're receiving in monthly from SSDI is not affected. The Medicare can be affected if the attorney doesn't reimburse Medicare for whatever it may have paid out, based on their claim to be reimbursed if they made conditional payments. But the SSI side, it is very relevant from there. And if it can be, if you've been on SSI or Social Security disability 5 years, 10 years, when the car wreck happens, or if you're in a car wreck that causes you to become disabled and be on SSDI or SSI as a result of it could be as a result of the car wreck. If the SSI claim resolves before the car wreck claim, then you've got to deal with it. And that's one thing, the attorney needs to know that you're pursuing that claim, because even if the car wreck case resolves sooner, if I know my client is pursuing SSI, and lots of times I'm representing them in that case, but if I know they're pursuing the SSI claim and it's still ongoing when we resolve the car wreck case, I know I've got to work to protect that, so that this case didn't cost him the SSI claim and the medical coverage that they're going to get from Medicaid because of the SSI claim.
And we've talked about that in a number of different issues or a number of different episodes. I know, again, something that's kind of surprising, but just because somebody's an injury attorney doesn't mean that they can handle the personal injury, which most often is the car wreck type case, plus workers' comp, plus Social Security. A lot of times they'll handle one or two of those, but maybe not all three. You have the ability in your office to actually, that is the focus of your practice.
Yes, that's the focus. I handle all three of those type of cases, and so that's
A little easier to coordinate, I guess.
well, it's a lot easier to coordinate when I'm the one handling all of the cases, just because I obviously have all the records and I know the status of all of them, and it's easier to make sure everything is protected and the client is protected from that standpoint. But I can coordinate even if somebody else is handling it. But the attorneys, both attorneys, need to know what the other one is handling so that they can coordinate. And I've talked to attorneys. Actually, not too long ago, I had one that called to ask about a way to try to undo to some extent what somebody else had handled another part of the case they weren't and didn't coordinate with them, and it was going to affect the case that they were handling. They knew I handled that area as workers' comp. They knew I handled a lot of workers' comp, and personal injuries, so they called me to see if I'd dealt with it before and see if I had any way to deal with that. So, but if the attorneys had been coordinating, and I don't know that either one knew about the other from that, but if they had been coordinating, the problems wouldn't have developed. So,
And the issue really comes down to the person who actually needs the help is the one who's missing out here because they didn't think to let both attorneys know, hey, I've got this case, is it going to affect the other? Because you see sometimes these are separate incidents. I've got my car wreck attorney, I've got my Social Security or my workers' comp attorney. You really kind of need to let everybody know what's going on. It's a good tip.
yeah, absolutely, a good tip to do from that. And having the attorneys coordinate. Both attorneys are looking out for your best interest, but they're looking out from a. If they don't know about the other, they're looking at it from a myopic standpoint instead of looking at it. Okay, we need to
holistically.
Yeah, a holistic standpoint, and good term. And so we need to coordinate and make sure we're doing what's best for the client.
Yeah. No, we've talked about the cases you do handle, but an area that you don't really focus in is VA benefits. But yet those could be impacted should somebody have suddenly some proceeds. Do you want to comment on that just briefly?
Yes, VA I don't represent people before the Veterans Administration to get VA benefits. I looked at that a long time ago when I first started practicing, but they had individuals that helped people that didn't charge, that had more experience in it. Here locally, there was a guy actually that I knew and I talked with, and he was very knowledgeable, and he didn't charge the individuals for that, and so I just referred people to him because he had a very good track record. So I never got involved in the VA disability aspect, but I've represented a lot of clients who are receiving VA disability benefits in their claim for Social Security disability benefits. We're not real far from Fort Campbell in Murray, and even closer at my office in Hopkinsville. So I've represented several veterans in Social Security disability cases, and that benefit is essentially coming off of the fact that they were a veteran and they were an armed service member, and to some extent, kind of like Social Security is an earned benefit. It's based on Social Security disability is an earned benefit. It's based on what you paid into the Social Security system. And so it's considered an earned benefit from that standpoint. You could make the argument that veterans' benefits are the same from there, but at least from a Social Security standpoint, Social Security does not consider the receipt of veterans' disability benefits, service-connected veterans' disability benefits, to be an earned benefit for purposes of the Social Security disability benefits that you receive. So you can receive your full Social Security disability and your full VA. My understanding, I don't do veterans cases, but my understanding is Social Security disability doesn't affect service-connected VA benefits. I know service-connected VA benefits does not affect Social Security disability benefits.
And that's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way it should be. I would
Yeah.
hope. Let me step back into workers' comp now. And you touched about this. You touched on this point as we were warming up the episode. Sometimes an injury is severe enough that, okay, I was working. I've got a workplace injury, and it's unfortunately going to disable me. So I can at the same time pursue workers' comp and Social Security disability. Now, as you were saying, there is some interplay there that the attorneys need to know about, or if you're handling the case that you already know about. Do you want to kind of walk around that? This is an offset, right? This is a set aside. Do you want to kind of talk about how that works? Because I think that confuses a lot of people.
It does. When I talk to clients, a lot of them are surprised to learn that there is an effect on their Social Security disability by what they receive in workers' compensation benefits.
Even though they're entitled to it.
Even though they're entitled to both of them. Workers' compensation benefits are the way it works, and I've represented a lot of people in both cases. And when you have a 55-plus-year-old individual who's done heavy manual labor and then suffers a significant back injury or neck injury, their ability to go back to doing that type of work it can be greatly affected and eliminated, and so they can have both cases. In fact, I've represented several clients where I've told them, okay, with the nature of this and how you're recovering, you might ought to consider applying for Social Security disability. If you can go back to work at another job, great. You're better off physically, mentally, and financially working than you are not working. But having that safety net in place when the workers' comp benefit stops is going to be a good idea. And so I've advised clients to do that in the past, and will again in the future, I'm sure. But there is an interplay between the two. Social Security says that they will allow you to receive a certain amount in combination of Social Security disability benefits and workers' compensation benefits. And once you go over that figure, then they're going to reduce your Social Security disability benefits dollar for dollar for the amount you're over that figure to bring you back down to that cap. And that cap varies from person to person because it's based on your lifetime earnings, or it's based on your earnings, I should say, not lifetime earnings. It based on what they determine as your average current earnings, or ACE figure, and 80% of that is what the cap is. So if the cap is $3,000 and you're receiving $1,800 a month in Social Security disability, if you get more than $1,200 a month in workers' comp, then they're going to reduce your Social Security disability benefit to bring you back to that cap of $3,000 there. So that is one that the workers' comp affects the Social Security disability. The Social Security disability has no bearing on how much you receive in workers' comp. It's the other way around. The Social Security is what is affected in that regard.
And that can have a significant impact. I mean, suddenly you're disabled. So if you were the primary breadwinner, I mean, life as you knew it changes.
Correct.
And so now, not understanding that, hey, wait a minute, just because I got hurt at work and I'm getting, the workers' comp benefits that I deserve, now I'm also being penalized on this part because the attorneys didn't necessarily get the wording in the settlement proper, or I didn't realize that, wow, being successful in one claim would actually have a negative effect on the other claim. And that's, again, that's unfortunate, but right now that's how the system is, how the system works, unfortunately.
It is, and Social Security will, and part of the what can occur and can be very problematic for individuals is Social Security may not realize that when they first start paying you the benefits, and then when they find out about the workers' comp, when they find out about the workers' comp benefits, they go back and say, hold on, we shouldn't have paid you this amount of money. I've had people come in to see me that I didn't handle their Social Security claim, I didn't handle the workers' compensation claim. They either they handled it on their own or they had somebody else handle it, but they've come in to see me because they got a letter from Social Security saying you received this money in workers' comp benefits, and so for the last 18 months we've been paying you $12 or $1,200 a month more than what we should have. Now you owe us all that money back, and you need to send us a check by and give you 30 or 45 days.
Because you just have it sitting around.
Just have it sitting around. And so, and they come in and to me and think, what can we do about this? And sometimes there's not much you can do. There's some things that you can, but at times, but a lot of times there's not much you can do about it. And so, because, the part of the stuff when you apply for Social Security and the paperwork that they send you, one of them is if you are receiving any of these benefits, you have to notify us. So if you failed to notify them, and then they finally find out from another source, or if you, 18 months later, your attorney in the workers' comp case says, oh, you need to notify Social Security about this award, and then you receive temporary total disability for a long period of time, and they didn't know about it, it comes back and can have a major impact, a financial impact on individuals. So, and that goes back to making sure, even if you have different attorneys handling the case, if you got a workers' comp attorney and then you have somebody else handling the Social Security, instead of having one attorney handle both, to let them know about each of those individual claims, because there's ways that you can settle the workers' compensation case so that it has less of an impact on Social Security disability benefits. Or if you can't eliminate the impact on it or lessen the impact too much, because you go to a judge's decision or whatever in the workers' compensation claim, letting you know, okay, now you hold back this back pay or this that you got from Social Security or this lump sum that you're getting from workers' comp, because Social Security is going to come calling, and let's go ahead and let them know. Find out what they're claiming back on this so you can get it dealt with up front, instead of spending the money and then 6 months, a year later, them come back and say, you owe us $30,000.
Yeah. And I would think the majority of people in that situation didn't do it on purpose. It's just like anything else. Life is complicated. You're signing a lot of forms. You're just trying to move forward. You're glad to kind of get it closed out. And you heard it, but you didn't really listen to it, or you didn't understand it fully. And then suddenly you get the letter.
Exactly.
And that's a bad day.
Yeah, a lot of times it's in the initial paperwork you get from Social Security, and then it's 8 months down the road that you're granted 8 months, a year down the road you're granted Social Security or longer, and then another 6-7 months after that the workers' comp claim resolves, and you don't remember what you read a year and a half ago.
Exactly.
And that's your attorney should know about those offsets, and if they do workers' comp Social Security regularly, they do definitely know about those offsets from there. So that's the reason, keep the attorney informed, and they can make sure they're processing and make sure they deal with that for you, so that you don't get a very distressing letter from Social Security down the road.
Well, Jeff, as we begin to close out the episode, we've got a few more minutes here, and I wanted to bring up one other situation. If you have a disability pension based on employment, it's a little bit different, but it's all kind of in the same family here, dealing with the proceeds. How does that work, and could that potentially be impacted?
If you've got a disability pension, a lot of employers have gone to a 401k, but there's still some that provide a disability pension. Several unions still have a pension as part of the union package as well. Whatever you receive in a disability pension does not affect Social Security disability benefits. Social Security doesn't care how much you're receiving from the Social Security from the pension at all, but Social Security disability benefits could affect what you receive from the pension. And I've seen several pension programs that actually require you, if you file for the disability pension, they require you to file for Social Security disability because they will deduct whatever you receive from Social Security disability from what they have to pay you in the pension. So they want you to take advantage of any other avenue to get money coming in, so that they pay you less and they can save money. Your amount may be the exact same as if they were paying and you never filed for the pension, but if it's $3,000 here and you're getting from the pension and you're getting $1,500 from Social Security now, then they may reduce that $3,000 down to $1,500 to keep you at that cap, kind of like Social Security does for workers' comp. Yeah. Only it's the pension doing it for Social Security benefits instead of Social Security being the one to do that. State disability, if you're a state employee and you get state disability, same thing. The state will look at what you're getting in Social Security disability from that perspective and can offset, and depending on what type of disability you're getting from state retirement anyway. And so you need to look into those. And then the last area that is relevant from that standpoint is if you get long-term disability. I don't see that a great deal, but more and more people are purchasing long-term disability benefits, and I've advocated for a long time short-term and long-term disability benefits for individuals. But if you long-term disability is very similar to a pension program from that standpoint. A lot of those will require you to file for Social Security disability benefits, and then if you're successful, it will reduce what you receive. It doesn't eliminate what you receive in long-term disability, but they'll take a credit for what you're receiving in Social Security disability. Some long-term disability plans actually will provide, I've seen where they provide attorneys to represent individuals in Social Security disability claims kind of free of charge because they that if they are successful in the disability claim, they have to pay less. And sometimes there's a reimbursement back to the long-term disability or the pension once Social Security pays, and if you get a Social Security back pay from that perspective. And so they want the people to pursue the Social Security disability claim and realize that having a representative improves the chances of being successful. Some of those programs, they don't have attorneys that are handling the cases. They have somebody else that are handling it, and some of them may do good. I don't see the results of those a lot. I've had some people come in that's had those and they didn't like them and they wanted to hire me, and they've done that from that perspective. But they may have that benefit. You need to make your own decision if you want to use that, or if you want to use someone, an attorney that does Social Security disability versus this program that may be, 3 states away type situation. But that's your call, and whenever that comes in, if you have that benefit.
That makes sense. Jeff, let me kind of close out the episode with this. You just talked about, they could choose a private attorney such as yourself. Let's talk real quickly in Social Security disability cases. How are the attorney's fees handled?
The attorney fees are on, at least in my office, are on a contingency fee basis. Means I'm only paid if I am successful in pursuing the Social Security disability claim for the client. The fee is 25% of the past due benefits, subject to a cap on the attorney fee. The fee is approved by the Social Security Administrative Law Judge or it's approved by Social Security Administration, I should say. Most of the time it's an administrative law judge, but if it's approved before we get to the hearing level, then it's someone else in the administration that approves the fee. And then Social Security actually will deduct that from the back pay and send that to me. From there, the cap changes periodically. Right now, it's $7,200 is the cap on the attorney fee. That's going up later this year, and there's at least talk of putting a cost of living adjustment so that it will change as the cost of living changes. I don't know if that will go through or not, but but that's the way it is. It's a contingency fee, so I only get paid if I'm successful in the case.
And the good news about that is it doesn't cost somebody to come in and talk to you. It doesn't cost them to actually hire you up front. It's only if you win the case, that's when you get paid out of the back pay. It doesn't really affect their monthly benefits, their weekly benefits at all.
Yeah, the vast majority of the cases I handle in my office are on that or that situation is contingency fee, contingent upon recovery. If there is a recovery, I get paid. If there's not a recovery, then I don't get paid, and I don't get reimbursed my expenses. I do the expenses on the contingency fee basis as well. And the reason in part why I do that is, I've had cars that's had problems, and I've taken them to mechanics and get it back, and it'd have the same problem, and that what they fixed may have needed fixing, but it didn't fix the problem I had, and I never did like that, and so I just have the business model that if I don't confer a benefit to my client, then my client's not going to be charged for that. It's very rare that I handle a case on an hourly rate basis. It's nearly always a contingency fee basis.
Outstanding. Jeff, if somebody's been listening to this and they figure, you know what, I need to pick up the phone and get in touch with you. You've got two offices, but really there's one phone number, one primary phone number.
Correct. I think it's, from my perspective, it's better to have the one phone number. And so the phone number to reach me is 270-753-0053. I do have an 800 number if somebody wants to use the 800 number. It's 1-800-844-5108. And so you can call that number. And if it's during business hours, you are going to be speaking to a live person the vast majority of time, unless we're all busy on other lines. But normally it's going to be a live person that picks up, and we'll be happy to talk with you and see if we can help you with your case.
Outstanding. Jeff, thanks for your time. And listeners, I know there's a lot going on in life. I know you've got a lot of other things on your plate, but you took a few minutes to listen to this episode, and I hope you found it helpful. I would encourage you to share it out on your social media channels to help Jeff get a little bit more visibility out there. And it's just good information to have. You just never know when somebody next door, somebody that's a friend of yours, somebody that's an extended family member might be dealing with this and not have had the chance yet to talk with Jeff or to learn about Jeff. And Jeff does some really good work. He's done it for 32 years down here in Western Kentucky. We'd like to give him the opportunity to help a few others. So once again, thanks very much. And Jeff, we'll be back in about 2 weeks.
Thank you.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Jeff will return in 2 weeks. Until then, he invites you to visit jeffrobertslaw.com and follow his firm on Facebook. At the Roberts Law Office, you'll find a history of small town service and big city results.